There's a photograph nobody talks about. June 1963, a private birthday party in New York. Audrey Hepburn stands at a microphone, elegant as always, singing happy birthday to President John F. Kennedy. 1 year earlier, Marilyn Monroe had done the same thing. Breathy, sexual, scandalous. Everyone remembers that performance. Nobody remembers Audrey's. Why? Because by 1963, their affair was ancient history. A secret buried so deep that it wouldn't surface for another 40 years. This is the story of the president and the princess. The affair that couldn't exist. The secret Audrey took to her grave. The truth about JFK and Hollywood's most elegant actress, and why she cried alone in a carriage the day he died. 1953, Washington, D.C. John F. Kennedy is 36 years old, a junior senator from Massachusetts with movie star looks and presidential ambitions. He's dating Jacqueline Bouvier, a beautiful, educated socialite from a wealthy family. Everyone knows they'll marry. It's the perfect political match. But Washington is a small town, and senators get bored. Kennedy has a reputation. Women. Lots of women. His father, Joseph Kennedy Sr., is notorious for affairs, including a long-term relationship with actress Gloria Swanson. The Kennedy men don't believe in fidelity. They believe in power. And for them, women are part of that power. Conquests, trophies, validation of their status. Jack Kennedy is handsome, impossibly handsome. Thick hair, perfect smile. That Boston accent that somehow sounds both aristocratic and accessible. He's charming, intelligent, ambitious, and he's sleeping with every attractive woman who crosses his path. But in 1953, his world is politics. Senators, diplomats, society women. Hollywood feels distant, glamorous but separate. The worlds don't mix. A senator and a movie star? Impossible. Improbable. So unlikely that even if someone saw them together, they wouldn't think twice about it. Which is exactly what made it possible. 1953, Audrey Hepburn is 24 years old. She's just filmed Roman Holiday with Gregory Peck, the movie that will make her a star. She's exhausted. She's just ended her engagement to British businessman James Hansen because he wanted her to quit acting after marriage. She refused. Her career is everything. She's not giving it up for anyone. She's in transition. Between relationships, between obscurity and fame. Between who she was and who she'll become. She's vulnerable, open, and she's about to meet someone who will change everything. How they met isn't entirely clear. Kennedy had connections everywhere. Hollywood, New York, Washington. Through friends, through industry people, through the network of powerful men who moved between entertainment and politics like it was all one big club. What we do know comes from years later. From biographies written after both of them were dead. From people who finally felt safe enough to talk. From White House Secretary Mary Gallagher, who told biographer Christopher Anderson what she witnessed. "I remember Audrey Hepburn," Gallagher said. "I remember how the whole office was impressed when she walked in. She was as graceful as a swan and carried a long, slim red umbrella. It's a small detail, but it matters. Because that umbrella, that specific vivid image, means Gallagher really saw her, really remembered. This wasn't rumor. This was real." Audrey came to visit Kennedy at his Senate office multiple times. And every time people noticed. How could they not? She was breathtaking, elegant, different from every other woman who came through those doors. Kennedy found her simply exquisite. Those were the words he used. Not beautiful, not attractive, exquisite, like she was a work of art. And according to Anderson's sources, Audrey out-Jackied Jackie when it came to presenting herself. Think about that. Jackie Kennedy, soon to be Jackie Kennedy, was already famous for her style, her grace, her sophistication, and Audrey surpassed her. But here's what nobody expected. Here's what shocked everyone who knew about the affair. Audrey had a completely different side that the public never saw. The public Audrey Hepburn was pristine, elegant, refined, almost otherworldly in her grace. She was the princess in Roman Holiday, the waif in Breakfast at Tiffany's, the embodiment of sophistication and class. She never cursed, never caused scandal, never stepped out of line. But with Kennedy, she was someone else entirely. She was extremely intelligent, well-read, and lots of fun, Anderson wrote, based on his sources. Audrey had this intoxicating laugh, pretty much what you saw on screen. But she also had this very sexy, very naughty side that the public never saw. Sexy, naughty. These are not words anyone associates with Audrey Hepburn. But they're the words people who knew about the affair used again and again. She wasn't performing elegance with Kennedy. She was performing something else. Freedom, maybe. Rebellion. The part of herself she kept hidden from the cameras and the public and the studio executives who wanted her to be America's princess. With Kennedy, she could be Belgian, European, complicated, sexual, real. And Kennedy loved it. He was used to women who wanted something from him: social status, power, connection to the Kennedy name. But Audrey didn't need any of that. She was about to become one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. She had her own fame, her own power, her own trajectory. She wasn't with him for what he could give her. She was with him because she wanted to be. That made her irresistible. They managed to keep their affair out of the press, Anderson's sources said. And the fact that it was clandestine only made it that much more intense. Secret meetings, private moments, the thrill of hiding in plain sight. Because who would believe it? A senator and a movie star? The worlds were just so different back then. When people saw them together, they didn't think affair. They thought networking, industry connections, politics, and Hollywood crossing paths. The perfect cover. But affairs don't stay in stasis. They either end or evolve. And this one couldn't evolve. Kennedy had presidential ambitions. Even in 1953, everyone knew he'd run eventually. And presidential candidates in the 1950s had requirements. Unspoken, but absolute. They needed American wives, preferably American-born, from good families with impeccable backgrounds. Jacqueline Bouvier checked every box. Belgian-born actress? Not even close. They needed Catholic wives. Kennedy was Catholic. His family was deeply, publicly Catholic. Divorce was out of the question. Marrying outside the church? Impossible. Audrey was baptized Anglican, raised Protestant in the Netherlands. Another deal breaker. They needed wives who stayed out of the spotlight. Jackie understood that. She could be visible when needed and invisible when convenient. But Audrey? She was about to become the most photographed woman in the world. There was no making her invisible. And honestly, Kennedy didn't want to marry her anyway. He liked her, maybe even loved her in his way. But Kennedy didn't believe in monogamy. He believed in power, and power meant marrying the right woman while continuing to do whatever and whoever he wanted. Audrey knew this. She wasn't stupid. She knew Kennedy was courting Jackie Kennedy. She knew this wasn't going anywhere. But for a brief moment in 1953, maybe that was okay. Maybe she needed something temporary, something exciting, something that had nothing to do with Hollywood or fame or the weight of expectation. Maybe she just needed to feel wanted by someone who wanted her. Not Audrey Hepburn, the actress, but Audrey, the woman. If you're realizing that Hollywood's golden age was way more complicated than the movies showed us, subscribe so you don't miss the next hidden truth. These stories matter. September 12, 1953. John F. Kennedy marries Jacqueline Bouvier in Newport, Rhode Island. The wedding is massive. 800 guests, society event of the year. Jackie wears a gown with 50 yards of ivory silk taffeta. Kennedy wears a morning coat. They look perfect together. Presidential. Where was Audrey? We don't know. Possibly in Los Angeles, possibly in New York, possibly pretending she didn't care. Roman Holiday had premiered in August, 1 month before the Kennedy wedding. The reviews were ecstatic. Audrey Hepburn was officially a star. She had her own trajectory now, her own future. She didn't need Kennedy anymore. Except it's never that simple. According to Anderson, Kennedy and Hepburn allegedly reunited briefly after his marriage. The Mayflower Hotel in Washington. Jackie was house hunting, looking for their first home. Kennedy was alone, and he called Audrey. Did she come? According to the sources, yes. One more time, one last meeting. The affair that couldn't exist, existing one more time. And then it was over. For real this time. Audrey moved on. She started filming Sabrina with William Holden and Humphrey Bogart. She fell in love with Holden, the married, vasectomied William Holden, who couldn't give her the children she desperately wanted. Another impossible love, another heartbreak. In September 1954, she married Mel Ferrer. 12 years older, sophisticated, European, safe, controllable. Not Kennedy, not Holden. Someone who wouldn't destroy her. Kennedy moved on too. More affairs, more women. Marilyn Monroe, Angie Dickinson, Jean Tierney, Marlene Dietrich. An endless parade of conquests. Some confirmed, some rumored, all part of the legend. But with Audrey, it stayed secret. Completely. Nobody talked about it. Nobody wrote about it. It was buried so deep that even decades later, when Kennedy biographers were documenting every woman he'd ever looked at, Audrey barely got mentioned. Why? Because she protected it. Because she never told anyone. Because unlike Marilyn, who sang "Happy Birthday, Mr. President," in front of 15,000 people at Madison Square Garden, Audrey kept it private, dignified, classy. Even when she had the chance to reveal it, she stayed silent. May 19th, 1962. Madison Square Garden, New York. President John F. Kennedy's 45th birthday celebration. 15,000 people, television cameras, the whole world watching. Marilyn Monroe takes the stage. She's wearing a skin-tight, flesh-colored gown covered in rhinestones. So tight she had to be sewn into it. She can barely walk. When she sings "Happy Birthday," her voice is breathy, sexual, dripping with innuendo. The audience goes wild. Jackie Kennedy isn't there. She refused to attend. The affair is barely hidden. It's a scandal waiting to happen. and it becomes the most famous happy birthday performance in history. Everyone remembers it. It's iconic. It's Marilyn's last great public moment before she dies 3 months later. What nobody remembers is what happened 1 year later. May 23rd, 1963. 1 year after Marilyn. Another birthday party for Kennedy. This time private. No television cameras, no 15,000 people. Just friends, donors, political allies. An intimate gathering. Audrey Hepburn attends, and she sings Happy Birthday to the president. There's no recording, no photographs. Just a thank you letter Kennedy sends afterward, preserved in the JFK archives. June 18th, 1963. Dear Audrey, I want you to know how much I appreciated all the efforts you made and time you spent in making my birthday party in New York on May 23rd such a success. It was delightful, and I am very grateful to you for the part you played in making it so enjoyable. With every good wish, sincerely, John F. Kennedy. Miss Audrey Hepburn, 100 Del Fern, Beverly Hills, California. Formal, polite, grateful. The letter of a president to a supporter. Nothing more. Nothing that hints at history between them. But the letter exists, which means the performance happened. Which means 1 year after Marilyn Monroe made history singing to Kennedy, Audrey Hepburn did the same thing. And nobody knew. Nobody talked about it. Nobody remembered. Because that was Audrey. Discreet, private, elegant even in secrecy. She sang Happy Birthday to a man she'd once loved. Or maybe still loved. Or maybe just remembered with complicated feelings. And then she went home. And she never spoke about it publicly. Not once. Not ever. 3 months later, everything changed. November 22nd, 1963. Warner Brothers Studios, Burbank, California. Audrey Hepburn is filming My Fair Lady. She's been fighting with the studio for months. They promised to use her singing voice, then dubbed her completely with Marni Nixon. She's humiliated, exhausted, resentful. Then the news comes. President Kennedy has been shot in Dallas. Production stops. Everyone crowds around radios, waiting, hoping. Maybe he'll survive. Maybe it's not as bad as it sounds. Audrey is standing with her co-star, Jeremy Brett. Someone tells her, the president is dead. According to eyewitnesses, Audrey's face goes white. She doesn't say anything at first. Then she turns to the cast and crew. Everyone, please pray for him, she says quietly. Then she walks to one of the carriages on set. A prop from a My Fair Lady street scene. She climbs inside with Jeremy Brett. She lowers the shades. And she cries. Brett doesn't ask why. He doesn't need to. He just sits with her while she breaks down, in private, hidden, the way she always handled her pain. Later, people will say she was crying because Kennedy was a great president, because it was a national tragedy, because she was a humanitarian who felt deeply about violence and loss. All of that is true, but there's something else underneath. Something she never explained. Something she couldn't explain without revealing the secret she'd kept for 10 years. She was crying for the man she'd known. The man who'd found her exquisite. The man who'd seen the naughty, sexy side she never showed anyone else. The man who'd written her a thank you letter 6 months earlier for singing him Happy Birthday. She was crying for Jack. Not President Kennedy, Jack. And nobody knew. For the next 30 years, Audrey Hepburn never spoke about Kennedy, not in interviews, not in biographies, not to friends. The secret stayed buried. Why? Because that's who she was. Audrey didn't do scandals. She didn't do tell-alls. She didn't trade on her past or sell stories or participate in the celebrity gossip machine. But also, and this is important, because revealing the affair would have destroyed her image. The pristine, elegant, untouchable Audrey Hepburn had an affair with a married senator? Even though they weren't married yet, Kennedy was clearly committed to Jackie by the time their affair happened. She was the other woman? She was part of Kennedy's parade of conquests? The public wouldn't have forgiven her. Not in the 1960s, not in the 1970s, not even in the 1980s. Women got blamed for affairs, not men. Kennedy would have been a rogue, a playboy, a charming rascal. Audrey would have been a homewrecker. So she stayed silent. And because she stayed silent, so did everyone else. Mary Gallagher, the White House secretary who saw Audrey at Kennedy's Senate office, didn't talk about it until decades later, when Christopher Anderson interviewed her for his 1997 biography, Jack and Jackie: Portrait of an American Marriage. By then, Audrey had been dead for 4 years. She died January 20th, 1993, age 63, from appendix cancer. She never lived to see the secret revealed, never had to answer questions about it, never had to defend herself or explain or justify. The secret died with her. Almost. 1997, Christopher Anderson publishes Jack and Jackie: Portrait of an American Marriage. The book details Kennedy's many affairs: Marilyn Monroe, Angie Dickinson, Jean Tierney, Marlene Dietrich, and dozens of others, including Audrey Hepburn. The revelation is shocking. Nobody expected it. Audrey and JFK? It seemed impossible. Their worlds were too different. Their images too contradictory. America's princess and America's president? It didn't fit. But the evidence was there. Mary Gallagher's testimony about seeing Audrey at Kennedy's Senate office. The description of Kennedy finding her simply exquisite. The accounts of Audrey's sexy, naughty side that the public never saw. The fact that they managed to keep their affair out of the press. The June 1963 thank you letter for the birthday party performance. It all added up. The affair happened. Probably 1953, before Kennedy's marriage to Jackie. Brief but intense. Secret but real. And then there was the additional detail that made it even more compelling. Audrey sang Happy Birthday to Kennedy in 1963, 1 year after Marilyn's iconic performance. 2 of Kennedy's alleged mistresses, 2 birthday songs, one remembered by history, one forgotten. Why was Audrey's forgotten? Because she wanted it that way. Because she protected Kennedy's reputation even after his death. Because she never tried to capitalize on their connection or use it to boost her own fame. She loved him once. Or maybe she just loved who she got to be with him, the version of herself that was sexy and naughty and free. And then she let him go, and she never looked back. And she never told anyone. That's dignity, that's grace. That's Audrey Hepburn. Context matters. Audrey wasn't Kennedy's only affair. She wasn't even close. The list of women Kennedy allegedly slept with is staggering. Marilyn Monroe, the most famous. Breathy happy birthday performance. Rumored affair while he was president. Died August 1962, 3 months after singing to him. Angie Dickinson, actress. She went on record about it. Called Kennedy a devastatingly handsome, charming man, the killer type. described sex with him as the most exciting 7 minutes of my life. Yes, 7 minutes. Jean Tierney, Hollywood leading lady from the 1940s, confirmed affair. Marlene Dietrich, legendary actress, 16 years older than Kennedy, brief fling. Judith Campbell Exner, the dangerous one. She was simultaneously involved with Kennedy and mobster Sam Giancana, potentially serving as a conduit between them. Mimi Alford, White House intern. She was 19 when the affair began. Kennedy was 45. She wrote a memoir about it decades later. Mary Pinchot Meyer, sister-in-law of Washington Post editor Ben Bradlee. Long-term affair. Mysteriously murdered in 1964, 1 year after Kennedy's death. Case never solved. 2 White House secretaries, Fiddle and Faddle, as Secret Service nicknamed them. Kennedy would bring them on Air Force One for swimming parties in the White House pool. And according to Anderson's book, Kennedy even tried his luck with Sophia Loren twice. She rejected him both times. This is the company Audrey kept. This is the list she's on. Movie stars, socialites, mobster girlfriends, teenage interns. The most powerful man in the world collecting women like trophies. But here's what's different about Audrey. She didn't confirm it. She didn't deny it. She didn't participate in the narrative at all. While other women gave interviews, wrote memoirs, and became part of the Kennedy mythology, Audrey stayed silent. She protected her dignity, and in doing so, she disappeared from the story until 1997, when the biographies caught up with her. So why does this matter? Why dig up a 70-year-old affair between 2 people who are both dead? Why not let it stay buried? Because it changes how we see Audrey Hepburn. And that's important. For decades, Audrey has been frozen in amber as the perfect woman. Elegant, graceful, untouchable. The princess who never fell. The icon who never made mistakes. The humanitarian who transcended Hollywood's ugly side. But that's not real. That's not a person. That's a myth. The real Audrey Hepburn had affairs. She loved men who couldn't give her what she needed. She had a sexy, naughty side that she hid from the world. She sang happy birthday to a married president she'd once slept with. She cried in a carriage when he died because the grief was complicated. Personal and political and historical all mixed together. She was messy. She was human. She made choices that were risky and complicated and sometimes impossible to understand. And that makes her more interesting, not less. More real, not less. The affair with Kennedy shows us something the pristine image never could. Audrey Hepburn wasn't just elegant. She was brave. She took risks. She claimed her sexuality in an era when women weren't supposed to have any. She had the affair she wanted and then moved on with her life and never apologized for it or explained it or monetized it. She lived fully, completely, on her own terms. And then she kept it private. Because privacy was power, because silence was strength, because the world didn't need to know everything. That's the real Audrey Hepburn. Not the princess, not the icon, the woman who loved JFK, who sang him happy birthday, who cried when he died, who took the secret to her grave, and who, even 30 years after her death, still has the power to surprise us. Epilogue. Roman holiday. There's one more detail. One more thread that ties it all together. Kennedy's favorite movie was Roman Holiday, Audrey's first starring role, the performance that made her famous. The film where she played a princess who escapes her royal duties for one day of freedom in Rome with an American reporter. Did Kennedy see that movie and think about Audrey? Did he watch her on screen, beautiful, untouchable, playing a woman desperate for freedom, and want her? Did the affair start because he saw Roman Holiday and decided he had to meet her? We don't know. But it's possible, even likely. Roman Holiday is about impossible love. A princess and a commoner. They fall in love over one perfect day. But it can't last. She has to go back to being a princess. He has to let her go. The final scene is heartbreaking. She's back in her royal role, giving a press conference, and he's in the audience watching her. They look at each other across the room. They can't speak, can't acknowledge what they had. It's over. But the love was real. That's Audrey and Kennedy. Impossible love. One brief affair that couldn't last. Then decades of silence. Then his death. Then her death. Then finally, years later, the truth emerging. The secret Audrey never told. The affair Hollywood forgot. The president and the princess, one more time. If you want more hidden Hollywood truths like this, subscribe to the channel. These stories deserve to be told. Not to tear people down, but to understand them. To see them as they really were. Complicated, flawed, human. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.